creating curiosity by asking better questions. This is Shed Talk. Patricia, control, therapy, YPO, everything we want to know. Oh, wait, there's also a book, Connected. Welcome to Shed Talk. Patricia, thank you very much for coming on Shed Talk. Now, just before we came on here, I wanted to make sure, Bathory, right?
Bathory.
I knew it. I always do that. One of the greatest things I always do, I always mess up the last names. I always mess up the first names. And
it's a good icebreaker.
It is a great icebreaker. And I appreciate you coming on Shed Talk and being a part of creating curiosity, being here. And I got to talk to you on the phone when you were basically getting on an airplane.
I was on the airplane. I was boarding. I sat down. We're having a conversation. Absolutely, that's when we got our date together, and it's great to finally be here after our little talk. And I was on my way to Istanbul to give a talk there. So it's and then I'm here giving a talk here. So it's kind of cool.
And that's the coolest thing because you don't know what you're going to know until you actually reach out and talk to somebody. Because a lot of people get scared about, oh, I don't know if she's going to talk to me. Or, well, I don't even know if I should even make that phone call. But the phone call was for Moran, and she said, you got to call. I said, everything we do happens in an instant.
It happens.
That time of day of that time and space that we have to create action is immediate. And I phoned you up and created that immediate action. Yeah. And what was your talk?
And well,
Istanbul.
I'll go to my talk in Istanbul, but before what you're just what you're saying, Maren is texting you and she's texting me, and then you call and immediately you come in vetted by a friend, and of course I'm picking up the phone. It doesn't matter if I'm inside a plane and I'm in the middle of something else, and just having those connections and how relationships are so important, because that's how it gets you to that step further, getting you to do exciting things like being in this podcast. In Istanbul, I was giving a talk. It was actually to YPO. It was for the global conference that they had there. They have 2 global conferences a year, and it was I was there talking about acceptance and about my journey towards acceptance, where control is not the answer. Acceptance is, and it was just this little bit of a personal story. It was pretty cool.
So control over
acceptance.
So control over acceptance. Can you explain a bit?
If you control, you don't accept. If you accept, you stop controlling. So this is a whole different story. It's I'm a control freak. I love controlling things. I love it when things go just my way, and knowing when things are gonna go. Patricia, can you be a little bit more free flow? Sure, absolutely. Tell me when, where, what time, and I'll be free flow for you. So it is something I've struggled with. I like having some sense of control, which is an illusion, because ultimately when life comes and the difficulties come and the challenges come, then all that sense of control is gone. And to them, I spoke about, the struggle I have controlling things in life that I can't control, right? It's easy when you're controlling, well, I want to get better grades, and you study harder and you get better grades. And, things that you can control in life. If I work harder, I get that promotion. But sometimes life throws at you things that no matter how much harder you work or how much effort you toss into them, it's not going to get a different outcome, because things just are. So for those things, you need to accept. And, that's where acceptance comes in on the other side of control.
So you just mentioned what things are.
Yeah.
What are the things that are?
Things, I think there's, I'm not going to know the name of the philosopher that said that, but one of them says
we can make it up.
We can make it up.
So
as Rara says, things just are. We are the ones who attribute meaning, and we attribute pain, and we attribute, feelings to things. It's also a little bit of how Buddhism is, and that's what that acceptance piece is. It's like things just are, right? People just are the way they are. Things just are the way they are. I have a child with special needs, and that's the one I struggle with. It's like, that's just how it is. Like, accept that, and things just are. And there's a lot of beauty in that if you can accept first. Because if you're not accepting, then you're struggling and you're fighting and you're trying to control. Well, if you're doing all that, you're too busy. And then that makes you unable to see the beauty that is within the things you can't control.
So not being able to control things is what you're calling the R. The things
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
That's interesting because I always look at it that an R is that you don't have to worry about controlling it. You just do. Right.
Say more.
So as in, if the light's red.
Okay.
Okay. If the light is red, okay, and I'm looking at the light, okay, it is what it is. It's red. Well, if I go through it, the consequences of going through it is that it's just a consequence. Okay, good, bad, or indifferent. But would that be a different way of thinking in breaking through a barrier?
I see what you're saying. I think I was more with the control and the acceptance is more of like things that are philosophically.
Right.
But I know what you're saying as in action reaction. Is that where you're going?
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
I'm thinking of that because when you're thinking when you're thinking about doing something, you just do it, and then you can change your outcome. But a lot of people have it played in their heads that they just don't do anything. That it's that little guy on their shoulder saying, "No, you can't do it," and they say, "Well, that's just the way it is. There's no way I can make a change. There's no way I can be better. There's no way. That's just the way it is."
I see.
Right?
I see.
Versus, wait a second, it's not just the way it is, but
Oh, okay.
making it and dig deeper down that rabbit hole. That's where I'm trying to.
Yeah, I
Lead.
like that because, and it is so nuanced, right? Because basically it is so nuanced because what you're saying is things just are not, right? The limiting thoughts make you think that things are. And we have to challenge the limiting thoughts and say, no, they're not. We can actually design a future the way we want. We can design things to be the way we want by working hard and going after these goals and achieving and putting effort in it. Yes. And we also have to accept that some things just are. I'll bring to you something called the Serenity Prayer. Serenity Prayer is huge in Alcoholics Anonymous. It's what they pray every time before they start a meeting. And the way it goes is, God, give me the courage to change things that I can. Give me the strength to accept the things that I cannot. And give me the discernment to tell them apart. So you need to have the courage to change. Oh, I can't do this. Yes, you can. Courage. Go, get it done. But some things just are. No matter how much you try, maybe you cannot get along with a parent or somebody who has a personality disorder or somebody you were born without the ability to walk. That's just a fact. Oh, I'm going to work really hard. You have a disability. You can't. So that's what I mean about acceptance. Right. But you're very right. It's a very nuanced way to see it. So I appreciate that.
No, and that's where I'm breaking down barriers. And it's interesting because you wrote a book. And I want to know a little bit more about how did you get into first writing the book? Okay. And it's outstanding, connected. I haven't read it because I'm not a reader, so I have to be upfront. But going through it and learning everything as we get to talk more about it. So please, tell me a little bit more about your journey of writing this.
So Connected started, instead of Connected, it was going to be about gratitude. So the book, I'm like, you know what? I'm so grateful because I have this innate ability to be grateful for things. I'm grateful for the people in my life. I'm grateful for the privilege that I was brought up with. I am grateful for the country that I live in, for the friends that I have. But then as I started, writing a few things about the book, like some, okay, this is where I can go with this is where I can go with that. I started realizing that really what I was grateful about were my relationships. I'm very grateful for having met the people that I've met. I'm grateful for the people that have been in my life who influenced me and impacted me and really are responsible ultimately for the person I've become. So then I'm like, well, maybe I'll write about relationships. And that's how the idea of writing about relationships and their importance and their impact in our lives began.
So how did relationships come to be?
So the whole premise of the book is the importance of relationships for success. Right? No man is an island. We cannot do anything alone. I picked up your phone call because my friend called me, said, it's my friend. Immediately, you are somebody. So connections they highlight us in the world. So the importance of them, to recognize that if you want to succeed in the future, if you have a vision of where you want to go, if you have a vision of what you want to accomplish, how can you surround yourself with people who will help you get to that destination, right? Because a lot of times we're like, yeah, I really want to, I want my book to be successful. And hey, here's my friend. He has a podcast. Well, this is great. This is a good, but if I have a friend who is a naysayer, who hasn't done anything or accomplished anything, and they're just going to say it's not a good idea, but we've been friends since I'm 6. Well, maybe it's time to rethink those relationships. So it's about setting yourself up and it's not about the utilitarian version, the utilitarian idea of relationships, but a little bit, right? Because if you're not surrounded by the people who will get you to where you want to go, they're going to be anchors and not propellers.
Interesting, because when you first start about talking about relationship, the first thing that comes into my head is husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, versus all of a sudden you just switch down the actual word of relationship is not about husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, girlfriend. I have to be careful, the woke crowd. That it's about just relationships with human beings and just being a part of humanity. And what does it take in understanding your basement friends and your balcony friends that's going to catapult you to truly to be successful.
I love that. I'm going to borrow that, the basement friends and the balcony friends.
Yeah, guys that inspire and catapult you to be for your greatness. And one of the greatest challenges, and then we talk about people and you've obviously brought it to light, is how important relationship is. But how important relationship is to kill it, meaning to get rid of it as well, meaning how toxic it can be and what it can do on all levels.
Yeah, anchor, propeller, absolutely. It, when you were talking about the breadth of relationships, think of your family of origin. You've got mom, dad, siblings, uncles and aunts, neighbors. That's just family of origin. And then think of your life today. You've got your partner, you've got your best friend, you've got your kids, you've got your coworkers, either employees or your boss or the peers, and then think of the people in your future, the people, your grandkids who have not been born, or the people who will be surrounding you as you go into this new chapter you're excited about. So it's so wide, this spectrum of relationships. We are relational animals, and we are relating at every minute of our day. You're relating to the person who needs to fix your phone at TELUS. You're relating to, I just parked here, and on my way here, there were some people in the street, and I'm like, hey, how are you? So you're relating. Hi, I'm a human. You are human. I see you. You see me. There's relationships everywhere we look.
Okay, so let's talk that. You walked in, you saw somebody, and you waved at them. First thing they say, so you talk about social media, and we talk about cell phones, people on cell phones, and all of a sudden that relationship to actually, instead of getting out of your car, people, the first thing they do, they're actually looking at their keys, looking at their phone, and never mind looking up and saying, hey, how are you? And then people go, okay, what are you selling? What do you want? And which religion are you from?
Why is she weird? Why is she weird? Why is she looking at me? Yeah. There's a little bit of that. But I mean, as an extrovert and as a Brazilian, I can't help it. I'm like, I'll come, I'll say hello, and be glad if I'm not just going in and hugging you. But that's a personality trait too.
Oh, that is so awesome. What do you find is your greatest challenges that, since you've written the book, you're going in there and you're deep diving it in conversations with everybody, because you want everybody to see the book.
Yeah.
What has become your greatest challenge or your superpower?
I think so. My don't quit your day job, right? So my day job is I'm a psychotherapist. So I work with leaders. I'm very niched at leaders who want to succeed and who are having issues in their personal lives. The biggest...
I'm going to say lives or wives?
Lives.
Lives,
No,
okay. Okay.
They're sometimes it's a lot of times a lot of husbands do. So,
Right.
So it's I work with leaders, people in leadership positions, and the reason for that is because I think I bring in this unique blend of I have an MBA, I'm an entrepreneur, and I have a master's in psychology, and I'm a psychologist. So that blend gets leaders to come in and go, she speaks our language, she speaks business, but she also speaks psychology. So that's what I end up niching in. And the common denominator, I will tell you, the common denominator is relationships. because the quality, Esther Perel, she says, the quality of your relationships determines the quality of your lives. So if your kid's lying to you, if you found out your partner is cheating on you, if you found out one of your parents has had a bad diagnosis, try to go to work that day, right? See where your mind's going to be at. Try to see how your performance continues when your relationships suffer. So I think that if you're going to ask me, why am I so certain that, relationships are at the core, is because they're the one thing that really rattle us everywhere else.
Is there a way? So, like you said, diagnosis, something happened here, and when I use that as a diagnosis, somebody has cancer, someone's going that. Now it becomes a storytelling in your head, okay, for yourself. Now you're going to work and bringing that story with you, versus you can't control the things that are. Okay, cancer is
Exactly.
Now, how do you correct the narrative of you at work on the relationship that you're building inside your head and everything else to control your emotion? Do you see where I'm going with this? And the question I'm asking is that everybody has that same problem.
Yeah.
Okay, the storytelling that they say is their friends, family, relatives, everybody's there. You're going to work. Is there like a life hack to be able to control yourself to say, I need to really focus on this task at hand? Because you're seeing business leaders and you're meeting them in a time of distress.
Absolutely.
Okay, because they're probably not calling you when everything's all up and high and mighty and all that's good. It's usually in distress. And understanding that distress and how to walk them through, and I'm not a therapist or anything like that, but life hacks. And I'm only speaking from my experience, sharing back and forth on this to go, one of my experience was to do this that got me through this as fast as it possibly could, which goes back to just do, to create action.
You got to get that. Yeah.
So
what is the do? You're asking, like, what is the do?
That do? Correct.
What is the do?
With leaders that you've met and going through that.
Yeah. I think I'm going to pull things to my side here. The first thing, go see a therapist. And it doesn't have to be me, but I think therapy is life-saving because it's the one spot where it's about you, right? Leaders, when they lead, it's about the bottom line. It's about the board. It's about producing. It's about performing. And when you come to the therapist's office, it's about you. It's leaning into the fear. It's looking at it without numbing. Because a lot of times, I got to perform no matter what. Can I box it away? Then you numb. Then you work even harder. You avoid it, right? And if I just work really hard, maybe it'll go away. If I work really hard, maybe I'll just pretend this is not happening. And this is the life hack not to do. Like, no, do not do that, because then it's going to come back bigger and worse and with more power after you. What you have to do is face those things, right? There's a diagnosis. What does that mean? What does that mean to find out that your life partner, who you've built everything with and who you love dearly, all of a sudden has got terminal, stage 4 cancer? What does that mean? It's horrible, yes, but why is it horrible? Sit here with me. Let's go through this. Let's unpack this. So I do believe the biggest life hack is face things, look at things, right? Unpack them, dissect them, because that's the only way. The only way across, like the only way through, right, the only way to the other side is through. You need to do. And the do here is addressing it. So what is the do? Address it. Talk about it. Lean towards it.
Interesting. And then this is where, so when you're talking more about see a therapist or to see somebody, would you recommend also too because of like YPO, EO, and like board of directors that come into play? Does that play a significant role with leaders with being part of peer groups like that?
Absolutely. I think, the forums at EO and YPO, they definitely have a very important place. They are that place where you suspend judgment. There's a place where you share. One thing I find really interesting with the forum experience is you don't have to be friends, right? You don't have to be friends. All you have to do is contribute and suspend judgment and listen empathically. And that is really great. My my caveat to that is that they are untrained, right? So if on the one hand you have confidentiality, you have open-mindedness, you have the suspension of judgment. On the other, you don't have the trained ear that says, are you maybe, avoiding the real question? What is the feeling behind this? I think the questions that somebody with more training would be able to ask. But sometimes, I had one of my forums, it had a psychologist in it. So that was the perfect situation because she would come in with, I think you're just, like you're avoiding the real problem. You're avoiding the real question. I'm like, no, I'm not. And she would say, okay, fine. But, think about that. So she had that insight.
And then how did that react with you? Because here you are, you're both the same, and you
Yeah.
know what she's doing.
Yeah. Oh, I know what she's doing. But therapists have therapists. So this is the one thing. Therapists, we are flawed. We have pain. We have issues. We are as humans as we are. And this is one thing when I talk to my clients, especially when they're struggling with things that are similar to mine. Sometimes I'll say things and they're like, oh my God, you've got it all together. I'm like, listen, there's two positions. Patricia, the therapist, in theory, I know what it is that we can do to get out of this space and get better. Do never confound that with Patricia, the human, who is struggling here I am with everyone. I'm just trying to make it. I'm winging it. I'm having difficulties. I'm struggling with acceptance. I'm having issues with control. So as a human, my experience is identical to everybody else's. I am just as confused and complicated as everyone else.
So do you dig down deeper inside yourself to ask yourself better questions? So as a therapist, okay, and like other people out there, and I'm going to call you on this one because you're not like everybody else, okay?
So
Because when you look at it, we have people that you have people that do this. You have brain surgeons over here. You have guys that are carpenters over here, like me. I'm a carpenter, and I'm not a carpenter actually.
that's a fancy carpenter.
Fancy carpenter. No, but a whole plethora of people that are all different. And then when you look at like an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
is totally different wired than a 9 to 5, and a 9 to 5 is totally wired than somebody that is midnight to 2. Everybody's wired differently because that's why we have so many industries, so many trades, so many great things to offer. But when you look at it and then you talk about that build up inside of yourself, that tension that you have, but where you're at as an entrepreneur and a therapist and helping people and going on these tours, you get to see a light in a whole different way of meaning. Now, does the feeling still stay the same as a entrepreneur, as somebody that has a job for the first time, and or a therapist? The feeling's still the same, but the outcomes are different. And that's when you look at yourself, because when looking at your book, listening to what you're saying, you've really got your stuff together and how you're putting it together and portraying yourself right down to your social media. Like right now, you're doing personal branding for yourself, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And why are you doing personal branding for yourself?
We didn't rehearse this question.
I know, but that's the beauty.
I don't know. Like, that's a question I don't have an answer for.
No, but it's great because now we get to ask ourselves better questions because here we are in your comfort zone, which is basically seeing and helping other people go through that, and then all of a sudden, which doing a great job, and you wrote a book on it. Now it's all about, okay, now let's get back to you about, here you are, personal branding. You have a social media team. You're very a control freak. You said, which is awesome. And then why personal branding?
And it's interesting because you asked me the question, and I'm still like, you gave me time. You asked it again. I still don't have an answer for it, which goes to show how when you can have confidence and excellence in an area and be absolutely clueless on the other. So when it comes to being an entrepreneur and being a psychotherapist and dealing with people and emotion, there's nothing you can ask that I'm like, that I don't have an answer for. Even if the answer is, I don't know, but I think it's kind of here. When it comes to why is it that you're doing personal branding, that is something that, the quick answer is, I think it's a way to amplify the message that I do in the one-on-one. right? I think so. The work that I do as a therapist in my office, when I see these people and you see that the common denominator, like I said, it's relationships. I'm like, well, what if I amplified that message? So then I wrote a book. So what if I amplify that message in the sense, because the book is not just, the message is not just relationships are important. The message is, okay, relationships are important. How can you relate better to the people in your life? And that's ultimately what the book is about, is how do we get along with people? So all of a sudden, here's a book. You can read about it and learn a little bit more about it. And then my social media presence, and this is where I'm hoping this is what I'm doing, but I'm still not too sure, is I'm amplifying that message. So I get to go on talks and speak to people that, you know what, if we get along with everybody else, the quality of our lives will improve. And for those people who we can't get along with, maybe it's time to let them go so that you can have the good life you deserve. So I think that's what it is. It's spreading the message further than just the office and just the clinic, because not everybody comes to therapy.
Patricia, thank you very much for being on Shed Talk and your book. Is there anything you want to end up with or say to finish off?
Well, yes, I think get this book wherever you can. Connected. It was written with a lot of love, and it's about relationships. At the end, there's an action guide. So specific tools for you to improve relationships with the most important connections that you have in your life.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Patricia.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Now you know. Shed Talk.